So what do you do? What do you do when you're a brand new nation? You literally have no friends. You are beset with economic hardships, internal squabbles, land disputes. What do you do? What choices do you have left? You call a meeting. Okay. Now, this meeting was going to take place in what I can only assume is the lovely city of Annapolis, Maryland. Okay. Now, we think Annapolis today in terms of the Naval Academy. Back then, there was no such thing. It was, however, a port city. Okay. So, as a port city, they had a little better understanding of economics than some other spots. Plus, we're talking about the mid Atlantic right here. It's a good general location from both north and south to try and gather together individuals, representatives from the various states to try and, well, basically address the inability of the Articles of Confederation to regulate commerce. But there's a problem. Only 5 of the states actually sent delegates. Okay, now for the Confederation Congress, it required a 2/3 supermajority to pass any legislation. What's more, if you wanted to go through and actually change the articles, excuse me, it took a full unanimous vote. All 13 states had to agree. And we can't even get half of them to show up to a meeting to talk about it. So what else can you do? You end up postponing the meeting. So you postpone that meeting until May the following year. You do that in the hopes that in the time that you're now waiting, you can convince other states that they need to send delegates. You can convince the other states that something needs to be done, that the issues within the Articles of Confederation have to be addressed. And so they decide to meet in May 1787. 55 delegates from 12 different states. Rhode Island was not going to be there. Rhode Island was going to be that one friend that no matter what everybody else wanted to do, they were going to prove they were independent by not showing up. In this case, you had 55 representatives from 12 of the states. They meet at the State House in Philadelphia. Today we call it Independence Hall. And they're there with one job and one job only. Their job is to revise the Articles of Confederation. Their job is not to create a new document. It is not to try and restart from scratch, toss the Articles of Confederation, and begin anew. That is not their job. That is not their assignment. But it is what they're going to do. If you ever get the chance, I highly recommend it. If you are in Philadelphia, there are several places you can see. You can go to the room where Thomas Jefferson had rented to stay while he was writing the Declaration of Independence. You can see the actual honest-to-goodness Liberty Bell. And you can see the room in which the Declaration of Independence was voted on. And you can see the room in which the Constitution of the United States was debated and voted upon and sent out to the people. Totally worth your time. These 55 men that met are what Thomas Jefferson referred to as a convention of demigods. Now, a demigod is like Hercules, halfway between human and godlike status. And these were big names. These were not unknowns or little recognized individuals. You had folks like Alexander Hamilton, Benjamin Franklin, James Madison. And what's more, as the president of what became the Constitutional Convention, you had George Washington, the indispensable man from the Revolution itself. So these were people who were known. These were people of stature. They were recognized. They had experience at both the federal and state level. Many of them had helped write the Declaration of Independence or the Articles of Confederation. They had served under these articles. So they knew what they were talking about. They weren't coming into this cold. They actually had an understanding of what was happening. But even though you did have such huge notables as this, there were some notable names that were missing. For example, you didn't have Thomas Jefferson was there. John and Samuel Adams, Thomas Paine, John Hancock, Patrick Henry, they were not there. Now, Jefferson, John Adams, and Thomas Paine, they were in Europe at the time. Sam Adams and John Hancock, neither of them had been chosen by Massachusetts to be delegates. And Patrick Henry, famed for the line, "I know not the course other men may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death," he was chosen as a delegate, but as he put it, he smelled a rat. He thought there was something questionable afoot with all of this. Basically, you had patriots like Sam Adams had not been chosen to be delegates because they were seen as too radical. Things had moved into a different stage. We were no longer looking for the rabble rousers. We were no longer looking for the bomb throwers and those who would help light incendiary fires. But instead, we were looking for individuals that were going to have a more even hand. People that were going to create a government that was going to last through the generations. And the hope was that the men in Philadelphia were going to do exactly that. On the chair upon which George Washington sat during the convention, there is a half sun. And the question was, is the sun rising or setting? And the only way we would find out would be once everything was done with the Constitutional Convention. If the states ratified it and if it went into effect, then we would have a better idea if that sun